Hey everybody, what is up? It's Dr. Vibe, your host of the Good Men Project Show, which is on once every month at thegoodmenproject.com, one of the most viewed sites in the world for men. And it's getting close to Oscar time, and the Academy Awards are this Sunday. So we thought we'd bring an expert. I call him an expert when it comes to film, Academy Awards, and all that kind of stuff. He's joining the Good Men Project Show this month. His name is Scott Mendelson. Scott is a longtime box office analyst and film critic who currently writes for Forbes magazine. He has piled the trade professionally and informally for nearly 10 years while studying the industry for over 25 years, going back to his childhood and extending through college and adulthood. He lives in Southern California and is married with 2 kids and a third on the way. Bravo. And Scott specializes in the box office, punditry, marketing analysis, and film criticism. So we'd like to welcome to the Good Men Project Show, Scott Mendelson. How are you this evening?
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you for having me.
Well, it is a pleasure, and we're looking forward to getting some inside thought process and picks on this Sunday show. So we'll get right into it, and we're going to look at the nominees in each one of these categories that Scott is going to give us. So in the first category, we're looking at Best Picture. And I don't know if I could ever make it, but the nominees are American Sniper, Birdman, Boyhood, The Imitation Game, The Grand Budapest Hotel, Selma, The Theory of Everything, and Whiplash. So who do you think is going to win, and who do you think should win?
Well, the second question is actually easier. Of the nominated pictures, my personal favorite is Selma. Although, my personal favorite, Nightcrawler, was not nominated this year, as tends to happen. As far as who will win, honestly, I don't know. And it is very weird for me, or really any Oscar pundits, and I'm not really an Oscar pundit per se, but nonetheless, to not know this close to the ceremony. What you've had is the presumed frontrunner that is Boyhood, that has been basically dominating the critics' best of lists and what have you, and most of the the award season brouhaha up until maybe the last month. But what we've seen in the last month is Birdman basically dominating a number of the Guild Awards. It won Best Director, it won at the Producers Guild, and generally speaking, and Eddie Redmayne, somewhat surprisingly, won Best Actor at SAG. Now, the people that make up those guilds are also a huge chunk of the members of the Academy. So, and this isn't a hard and fast rule per se, but if one film wins all of those guilds, and I believe that the Writers Guild just took place, and The Imitation Game won Best Adapted Screenplay, while I believe the Grand Budapest Hotel won Best Original Screenplay. Both of those films are also up for Best Picture. So it stands to reason if one film is dominating the guilds, that film is now the frontrunner to win Best Picture. So basically, it's a three-way race. You have the presumed frontrunner, that's Boyhood. You have the award season champion, the late gaining champion, that is Birdman. And then you have sort of the dark horse, which is the Grand Budapest Hotel, which came out basically a year ago, and it was very successful. It did 59 million domestic at the box office. It was a huge hit considering that Wes Anderson films are not what you consider blockbusters. And the people that like it really, really, really like it. So offhand, I would say it's a three-way race between those three films, with Birdman or Boyhood probably getting the win. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. As far as which of those two I'm predicting to win, it's a coin toss at this point.
All right, good stuff. All right, well, let's get to the next category, Best Director. And we have 5 nominations here. First up, we have Birdman again. The director, and I hope I pronounced the name right, Alejandro Inarritu. We have Boyhood for Richard Linklater, Foxcatcher, Bennett Miller, The Grand Budapest Hotel, Wes Anderson, and The Imitation Game, Morton Tyndall. Tildum, or T-Y, Tildum. I'll go Tildum. So my apologies if I get the pronunciation incorrect. So again, who do you think's going to win, and who do you think should win?
Well, you can knock off Morton Tildum, I apologize, right away because he is. I'm sorry, not Morton Tildum, I apologize. Bennett Miller, because Foxcatcher was not nominated for Best Picture. And as a general rule, it's almost impossible to win Best, it's very difficult to win Best Director when your film is also not nominated for Best Picture. It's somewhat rare for the film that wins Best Picture to also not win Best Director, although those splits have been happening quite a bit in the last several years. In my personal opinion, once again, it's either going to be Richard Linklater for Boyhood or Mr. Inarritu, and I'm pronouncing that very quickly, so I hope nobody notices that I screwed that up, for Birdman. It's going to be one of those two. Linklater is a popular favorite among Hollywood in general. He's had a long career of making somewhat outside of the box films that have achieved a certain amount of success. And this could be as much a career award as it is an award for directing Boyhood. However, if there is if Birdman takes Best Picture and the momentum keeps going accordingly, Mr. Inarritu earned justified acclaim for making a visually dazzling picture. One of the gimmicks behind Birdman is that through the magic of editing, the film tells its story basically feeling like it's one long edit. Obviously, there are tricks to be found if you're looking close enough, if you care to look close enough, but the film plays off as one long take. So it is a visually dazzling picture. So it's going to be one of those two. And unfortunately, once again, it's going to be a coin toss in terms of which of those two win. But I would be willing to bet that the Best Director and the Best Picture is split this year.
Excellent. Now we get into some really hotly contested nominations. Best Actor, Steve Carell in Foxcatcher, Bradley Cooper in American Sniper, Benedict Cumberbatch, The Imitation Game, Michael Keaton, Birdman, and Eddie Redmayne, The Theory of Everything.
Well, until about a month ago, I would have told you that not only would Michael Keaton have won the Oscar for Best Actor, he would have gotten about 90% of the votes. One of the overreaching themes of the awards season was that Birdman was a great movie, and it was Michael Keaton's grand comeback performance, and he would finally get the recognition that he so deserved from his peers. And he did win the Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Comedy, which Birdman technically is, and he gave a very heartfelt speech. However, Eddie Redmayne not only won Best Actor for a Drama for The Theory of Everything, fair enough, but he's also done very well in the Guilds. He won the SAG Award somewhat unexpectedly. And so again, unfortunately, this is one of those weird years where it's going to be a coin toss between the two of them. You have the respected veteran who delivered a comeback performance, a very self-aware comeback performance, versus the relative new kid on the block who gave a very good performance and a well-liked picture with the hook that he's playing a real person who undergoes great adversity, in this case a physical handicap. I don't want to knock Redmayne's performance by saying, oh, he played a handicapped person, he played a physically challenged person, which, is A, very impressive, and B, often looks like acting with a capital A. But I'm not going to lie and say that's not to his advantage. So it's going to be either Keaton or Redmayne. And again, unfortunately, it's a coin toss.
A lot of coin tosses you're putting up this year. You're not going one way or the other, which is interesting. Is it usually like this for you?
No. No. Usually we have a front runner. It's. And I was talking to my wife last night about this. Usually the Oscar season is like the Democratic Convention of 2004. Once you get your proverbial John Kerry, everybody latches behind John Kerry, and he goes all the way to the convention. That has not happened this year at all. And the funny thing is my wife always participates in our Oscar pool, and she's actually won the last few years that we've done it. Okay. And her secret is that she sees none of the nominated films. So she has no emotional stake whatsoever in the outcome.
Oh, wow.
Um, but this year, because there are so many categories that are somewhat tied up, she actually told me last night that she wished she had seen some of the contenders so she could at least have that as a way to factor into her decision making.
Wow, that's good stuff. Well, maybe next year, everything going right, we'll have her on and have her give her predictions because
Perhaps.
she seems to be right on with it. So let's get to the Best Actress nominees: Marion Cotillard in 2 Days, One Night, Felicity Jones in The Theory of Everything, Julianne Moore, Still Alice, Rosamund Pike, Gone Girl, and Reese Witherspoon in Wild.
Julianne Moore is going to win. She's won pretty much every award precursor. She's an incredibly well-respected and well-traveled actress who's been nominated several times without a win. This is a pure star vehicle performance. She plays I believe, she plays a professor who is stricken with early onset Alzheimer's, and it's a pretty good movie. She's terrific in it, and if she doesn't win, it will be the biggest shock of the night.
Okay, that was pretty cut and dry. All right, we'll just get to the next one. Best Actor in a Supporting Role: Robert Duvall in The Judge, Ethan Hawke in Boyhood, Edward Norton, Birdman, Mark Ruffalo in Foxcatcher, and J.K. Simmons in Whiplash.
Once again, J.K. Simmons for the easy win. He is a very well-respected character actor. He has a lot of meaty character roles, supporting characters, cameos. He does a lot of TV work. Everybody likes him. This is the first real showcase role he's had, I don't want to say ever, but it's been a while. And this is definitely a reward, a journeyman actor for the body of his career award. Now, having said that, I love Whiplash. He's terrific in Whiplash, but this is as much about rewarding the career as rewarding the specific performance, specific film, which bothers me a lot less when it really is a great film and it really is a great performance. Whiplash is one of the best films of the year. It is one of those films that made it to the Best Picture race purely by sheer force of audience goodwill. It was not a box office hit. It's just a darn good movie and everybody loves it. And again, if he doesn't win, it will be a shock.
All right, good stuff. Next up, Best Actress in a Supporting Role: Patricia Arquette in Boyhood, Laura Dern in Wild, Keira Knightley in The Imitation Game, Emma Stone in Birdland, and Meryl Streep Into the Woods.
Patricia Arquette for Boyhood for the win. Again, this is almost a foregone conclusion, and I apologize for repeating myself for the third time in a row, but longtime actress, very well respected in the community, has done a gajillion different kinds of films and television shows, has never really gotten her due acclaim for one reason or another. Part of that is, unfortunately, just due to the overall lack of star vehicles for women in Hollywood these days. That's a conversation for another day. Again, great performance in a great movie. If she doesn't win, it will be a shock.
Let's go to Writing in an Original Screenplay. We have Birdman, Boyhood, Foxcatcher, The Grand Budapest Hotel, and Nightcrawler.
I would love to tell you that Nightcrawler is going to win because that's my favorite film of the year, but it's probably not going to happen. The nomination is its own reward, and I'm sure writer-director Dan Gilroy will be in the running again in a few years. Conventional wisdom would say it's going to come down to Birdman and Boyhood because those are the two Best Picture frontrunners. However, if, for example, Boyhood wins Best Picture or Best Director, while Birdman wins Best Picture or Best Director, the Academy, keeping in mind that they're not the Borg and they don't all vote as a single block, they all have their own opinions, the Wes Anderson screen and Hugo Guinness's screenplay for The Grand Budapest Hotel may be a chance to reward that movie with one of the top categories, don't get me wrong, but that may be a chance for the Academy to reward a very well-liked critical darling if they don't give it any of the Best Director or the Best Picture awards. Unfortunately, this is one that I don't know for sure. My brain tells me it's going to be a split between Birdman and Boyhood, but my heart says they're going to give Wes Anderson his Oscar finally.
Good stuff. And then the final nomination we'll look at Best Writing in an Adapted Screenplay. American Sniper, The Imitation Game, Inherent Vice, The Theory of Everything, and Whiplash.
Well, 4 of those films are in the Best Picture running. And frankly, if they're going to find a way to reward American Sniper, it will be in a surprise win for Bradley Cooper. I don't see that happening, but it would be shocking without being jaw-dropping. I don't think, no one particularly thinks anything much of the Imitation Game screenplay. I don't mean that as an insult. I apologize, Mr. Moore. But that film is, it's a well-written, successful commercial potboiler with a strong lead performance by Benedict Cumberbatch. Same thing with The Theory of Everything. The extent that people are talking about that film, it's for the actors, not so much for the screenplay. Now, Damien Chazelle, I hope I pronounced that right, he wrote and directed Whiplash. He's, I believe, 29 years old. This is his big coming out moment. I would like to be optimistic and say that that they're going to reward his boy wonder moment by giving the Best Adapted Screenplay award to Whiplash. Now, there's a little bit of controversy, not a lot, but a little bit, over the fact that it is an adapted screenplay only because it's based on like a short film that he made many, many years ago. There's some contention that it should be in the original screenplay category, but what's done is done. So if you're asking me, and obviously you are, I'm giving a slight edge to Whiplash, with the caveat that it could be just come down to the duel of the British biopics. My heart says Whiplash, but frankly, I'm not terribly confident enough to predict any of the 3 so-called frontrunners. So I'm throwing out for Whiplash, but I would not put money on that.
Okay. Well, on most of these picks that you've made, it sounds like it's too close to call. Is that norm in your opinion, when it comes to the Oscars over the last few years?
No. Usually, there are certain categories that are tighter than others. Byproduct of having a lot of big star vehicle opportunities for handsome white leading men, the Best Actor race is usually pretty crowded. While, frankly, the Best Actress race usually has a major frontrunner. But having said that, this is a year where there isn't a front of the line champion. Often what you'll see is Harvey Weinstein, who is a master of the Oscar campaign, getting his film out there at the front of the line early, and nothing really changes that narrative. Or you have what happened last year, where you had Gravity and 12 Years a Slave just blowing everybody out of the water in late September, early October, where it really came down to which of those 2 films was going to win. Nothing else had a chance. There was talk that maybe American Hustle was going to be the sort of consolation choice for those that didn't care for the special effects showcase that was Gravity, or for reasons I don't want to slander or libel anybody, that weren't comfortable with the narrative of 12 Years a Slave. How about that? That they were going to go with the star-driven, gee whiz, this is fun 70s potboiler of American Hustle. Obviously, that didn't happen. 12 Years a Slave did win Best Picture, even though a number of Academy members claim they didn't watch the film. But that's a conversation for another day. And a lot of times what you'll have is a film that comes out and so blows away the competition that the race is already over. That happened in 2004, where one of the last films to drop was Clint Eastwood's $1 Million Baby. And once that film dropped, and that wasn't a year without a lot of frontrunners. Once that film dropped, and everybody say, okay, this is the film that we can champion, the race was over. Or you have something like Schindler's List in 1993, where you have to have felt a great swell of pity for anyone that was working on the Oscar campaign for any movie that wasn't Schindler's List in 1993. Because, sorry, it wasn't going to happen.
Exactly.
Or something like in 2003, where you have Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King, where all Peter Jackson had to do was make a film that wasn't bad, and he was, the film was going to dominate the Oscar season. because the first two films were so beloved and so successful and so much better than people expected them to be that all he had to do was not fumble the last chapter, and Oscar gold was his.
There you go. We've had some previous discussions before this episode or this show tonight about when the nominations were announced this year. There was quite an outcry from a number of people about the lack of diversity in the nominations, and especially in regards to the movie Selma, how it did not get more nominations. Can you share your thoughts a little bit on that? We have had conversations before, but there's certainly an audience now who haven't heard what you've had to say or your thoughts in regards to lack of diversity with the Oscars this year.
Well, I think the problem, the lack of diversity at the Oscars is just a matter of not having a lot of high-profile films in the race that feature major actors, major minority actors. And you basically had Selma or nothing this year. I would love to, the best case scenario isn't a situation where a film like Selma gets the Oscar nominations it deserves. It's where a film like Selma gets robbed because there's some other quote-unquote black-centric film that steals all of its nominations instead. Where there is, general competition among films that happen to feature minority stories or minority actors and filmmakers. As for Selma specifically, I don't want to repeat too much of what I've already said, but long story short, Paramount was a little late getting the screeners out. I don't think that helped in terms of the Guild Awards. And unfortunately, when the film came out on Christmas Day, and then through its wide release in early January, the overriding narrative became not this is a great film, or this is a great artistic accomplishment, or Ava DuVernay might break the glass ceiling, become the first female director nominated, female African-American director nominated for Best Director. The convention, the narrative unfortunately became a battle over he said, she said, she said, he said, over whether or not the film was accurate enough in terms of its portrayal of Lyndon B. Johnson. I find that absurd. I saw the film before this, before this controversy broke out. I find Tom Wilkinson's portrayal of Lyndon B. Johnson to be very sympathetic, nuanced, layered, and ultimately he is one of the good guys. And unfortunately, while films like Imitation Game and American Sniper and Theory of Everything and Foxcatcher were able to skate by, despite the fact that there were somewhat fictionalized approximations of historical events, Selma became the, pardon the choice of words, whipping boy for that conversation. And yes, it is unfortunately ironic that the one film, in a season filled with films made by white male directors about interesting or famous or important white male heroes or anti-heroes, the one film that gets knocked out of the race because of cries of historical inaccuracy is the one about an important or interesting black person made by an African-American female director. And that the narrative of this film about an important black person made by an African-American female director becomes, oh no, it wasn't nice enough to the white supporting character, the very powerful white supporting character, that the film was too mean to the President of the United States.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. You've been watching and partaking in watching the film industry, Hollywood industry for many, many years. Do you see hope on this changing?
Very little. Because it's not like the members of the Academy, gather around in a smoke-filled room and make the conscientious choice to exclude films by and about women, films by and about minority leads. It's not a conspiracy. The Academy is overwhelmingly male and overwhelmingly white, and there is a presumption in the industry, in the media, in the conversation at hand, that a film made by a white male director about a white male protagonist is inherently more commercial and inherently more worthy of critical discussion than a film like Wild, which had to fight an uphill battle for critical respect, even though everyone knew that Reese Witherspoon was going to get a nomination. A film like, Beyond the Lights, which really never had a chance anyway. Or a film like Selma, which had to fight, to a certain extent, a losing battle for Oscar recognition against charges that, frankly, a more conventional white-centric film would have survived. A film like A Beautiful Mind, a film like The Imitation Game did survive. So I don't think it's so much a big conspiracy. I think it's the conventional wisdom that films by and about white people, white males, are automatically given a leg up in terms of the ladder of presumed critical respectability. Now, the good news,
Go ahead.
I apologize, I have one more point. The good news is the end result of all this controversy, Ava DuVernay already has a couple major products lined up. She has a fictional original story set during Hurricane Katrina. She's got a network's pilot on Oprah Winfrey's own network, and she apparently is directing a CBS procedural pilot. That, I'll be honest, I don't know much about that. I just saw it in a headline a few days ago. Wow. So her next film will become part of the awards discussion just by virtue of her being behind the camera. So, ironically, for better or worse, Miss DuVernay is probably the most powerful African-American female director in the industry right now, and arguably the most powerful African-American female director that has ever existed in the industry, give or take someone that I might have forgotten offhand.
Well, that is amazing. What would you like to see improve with the Oscars?
Well, the Oscars and the award season conversation overall.
Yes.
I would like to see films like Wild, which stars Reese Witherspoon as a woman that basically takes I think it's like a 1,000-mile hike across the American wilderness, for lack of a better word. To deal with her own personal problems. It's a very good film. It's very funny. It's very moving. It's very well acted. I would like to see that film be taken just as seriously as something like Whiplash, which is about a young man's journey. Now that's nothing against Whiplash. I love Whiplash. Whiplash is one of my favorite films of the year. But I believe a film like Whiplash already has a leg up on the competition by virtue of it being a young white man's journey versus a woman's journey. I would like to see an award season where, again, minority-specific, minority-driven films that are good, I mean, obviously that helps, are taken just as seriously in the conversation that eventually shapes what films will dominate the year-end list and which films will dominate the award season. I would like to see those films be, mentioned in the same breath as the conventional would-be awards-bait pictures. Other things not relating so much to diversity, I would like to see more films that come out through the entire course of the year be brought up in the conversation. Or it's not just, a couple films that came out, maybe one in the spring, maybe one or two in the summer, and then everything else being that October to December rush. Because it's you get a situation where the studios all throughout their would-be best films of the year had basically the last 6 weeks of the year, and that's part of why you constantly have pundits running around screaming, "Oh, this is the worst year for movies ever!" Wah 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 wah. And then by the end of the year, holy moly, this is the best year for movies ever, because once those year-end Oscar bait pictures, or just year-end really good pictures that they want to be taken seriously, come out in October, November, December, holy goodness gracious, this has been a really terrific year for movies. No, it's actually been a terrific last 3 months for movies. And I would really like to see that change.
Excellent. Well, on that note, Scott, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your positive, productive schedule, your family, which is growing. Congratulations, and we're speaking.
Thank you.
It's going to be a great addition to the family. Your work at Forbes magazine, and outside of that, if people want to connect with you, how can they do that?
Well, obviously they can read my work and give me valuable clicks at Forbes.com. My blog is technically called The Ticket Booth, if you want to Google that. I'm on Twitter at Scott Mendelson. I have a Facebook page, both under my name and under The Ticket Booth. And that's basically the extent of my social networking. I don't use Tumblr. I don't use Instagram. Frankly, this is the first time I used Google Hangouts. So
you did a great job. Like, we had a little bit of a delay making it happen, but you did an outstanding job, and you seem very comfortable, and you love to express your passion about the film industry. So it was just a natural. So you did a great job.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, it's Dr. Vibe here. I'm your host and co-producer of the Goodman Project show. I co-produce it along with Marie Roker-Jones. You can catch us once a month at thegoodmanproject.com, one of the most viewed sites in the world for men. All the contact information of the Goodman Project is on the site. So as always, we like to say, you're blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles, and you're a solution for someone's problem. Take care, and we'll see you next month. Bye-bye.
Thank you.